They say time heals all wounds, but that's not true when the wound has never been clean. America keeps trying to move on, pretending that the past is over. And how, to be honest? But how do you move on when the blood of your ancestors still cries from the ground? You can't build your future on the bones of the innocents and expect peace. Because no matter how many years pass, no matter how many lies are told, God has remembered what America did. For centuries, this nation tried to bury its sins under the flags, laws, and speeches. But the truth never dies. It only waits. The same America that sings about freedom still profits from the pain of those it enslaved. The same system that preaches equality still locks away black men by the millions. They tell us to move on, but the system never moved. From slavery to segregation to police brutality, the same spirit of injustice still breathes in the land. And now the earth itself is crying out. The storms, the fires, the chaos, none of it is random. This is what happens when a nation refuses to face its truths. The cries of our ancestors were not ignored. They reached the heavens. Every whip, every chain, every tear, all recorded, all remembered. The world may forget, but God never forgets injustice. And now America is being forced to face what it tried to hide. The judgment we are seeing isn't punishment, it's consequence. Let's watch these videos anyways, and I'll be back. Do not forget, credit to those creators, right, who are speaking their minds. Credits to them, shout out to them as well. But watch these videos to the end. Surely if you're Black American, you have a message in these videos. I'll see you when we come back.
If you ever needed proof that America has two justice systems, one for the powerful and one for everyone else, let me show you. On one side, we have former Congressman George Santos, who lied, cheated, and stole over $500,000 in campaign funds, donor money, and even people's identities. He was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. And guess what? His sentence was commuted, cut short, by Donald Trump. He's already out. On the other side, we have Willie Simmons. In 1982, he robbed a man of $9. But he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He's still there over 40 years later. $500,000 stolen. Freedom. $9 stolen, life in prison. Same country, same system, different outcomes. And they still call this justice. Until we face the fact that our justice system protects status and not fairness, we are going to keep watching men like George Santos walk free while we watch men like Willie Simmons die behind bars. That is not justice. That's America. And it's time that we stop pretending otherwise.
Hey fam, so there is just one 5-part thing you need to understand about this administration. Corruption, theft, graft, greed, and cruelty. That is it. Corruption, theft, graft, greed, cruelty. What do I mean? This is the most corrupt administration in the history of the United States. Donald Trump is personally enriching himself off the presidency in a way no previous president has, between the crypto schemes and all of the other ways he's personally profiting, going to foreign countries and getting them to invest in golf courses, his businesses, his family, making all the money in the world. Total corruption. Also corrupting the Justice Department, making them go after and prosecute people he's deemed his enemies personally, that he's mad at because they prosecuted him for his actual crimes. Total corruption. Then there's theft. When Donald Trump, and I do say when he gets Pamela Joe and the DOJ to pay him $230 million to basically bribe them the way he bribed CBS and the way he bribed ABC, you know who's going to pay for that? You. They're stealing your money because it is the taxpayer who funds the DOJ. So that payment will come from your pockets, just as the big tax cut for the billionaires came from your pockets while you can't get food stamps and you can't get healthcare subsidies. So that's the theft. The graft, the Republicans are in on it. Every single Republican and friend of Donald Trump and billionaire pal of his, all making money off of what should be the federal government and the public spaces. He's handing over our national parks and our national public spaces to be drilled, to be whatever, because they're friends of the president. That's the graft. And the greed is kind of obvious, right? They're all just greedy motherfuckers who are stealing from you in order to enrich themselves while everyone else is made poor. And the fifth piece, the cruelty. What the PO folks who vote for Trump get is not farm subsidies, not food stamps, not assistance. They get to go broke and be poor, but they get to watch the people they hate be beat up, dragged in the streets, thrown into detention. They get to watch the cruelty toward the brown people they hate, and that is what they get. They get to feel superior to black people who get fired and laid off, and the cruelty toward non-white people, let's be clear, and toward trans people and other minorities, that is what his po-ass base get, because that's all that they crave. They're like vampires. They need to drink the cruelty toward the people they hate, and that's what they get. Everyone else gets the corruption, the theft, the graft, and the greed, and all y'all little Trumpers, what you get is the cruelty, because the cruelty is always the point when it comes to conservatives. It's what conservatism is, cruelty that backs corruption, theft, graft, and greed. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Despite the government shutdown, U.S. taxpayers' funding to Israel will continue unimpeded. Wow. Paychecks for our own government employees will be delayed. SNAP welfare food program benefits will also be delayed. Government projects will not be going through, and even paychecks to our own U.S. military, our own soldiers, that will be delayed too. But payments and benefit to blue states, country, and military, that's going to continue on even though they're supposed to be in a ceasefire. The great noticing continues, and this just keeps on getting ridiculous.
Not only is America not a Christian nation, but according to this American lawyer and theologian, it's a demonic nation. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Colton. I grew up a Pentecostal pastor's kid, went to school to get degrees in historical Christian theology, and I don't think January 6th is anywhere close to one of the worst things that's happened in American history. But it is a particularly good illustration of what this video is about. We saw an enraged mob of violent Christian nationalists carry American flags and Jesus Save banners into the Capitol during an attempted coup. And in the aftermath, I remember seeing one pastor say that this was a revival, not a riot. I saw another pastor say that the insurrection was comparable to the walls of Jericho falling down. That's how they viewed it. And more than a few Christians defended it as the hand of God moving through patriots. There was this guy named William Stringfellow who was a civil rights attorney, an activist, and a theologian who lived in Harlem during the 1960s. He wrote this book called An Ethic for Christians and Other Aliens in a Strange Land. Stringfellow used the language from Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, to talk about America being the demonic principality of the power of death. In this passage, someone, purportedly Paul, although that's hotly contested by the scholarship, says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And in context, this is essentially naming the unseen forces that work through empires and institutions and ideologies. Not just like metaphors, but Stringfellow actually took this seriously. For him, these powers and principalities are the spiritual and institutional realities that shape human life, and often without our awareness. Stringfellow didn't think that demonic principalities came wearing horns and red capes, but they came dressed in flags and standing in pulpits, using the language of freedom, family, and faith. He saw them as real forces that were spiritual, systemic, and seductive. He saw them operating as governments, corporations, and even churches. Really any institution that takes on life of its own and demands allegiance, resists accountability, and functions to preserve its own survival at the expense of truth. Stringfellow said that these forces aren't always obviously evil, that they pretend to be good because they disguise themselves as righteous and they speak in the name of God while dealing in death. Put simply, he saw America as a principality pretending to be God. For Stringfellow, this is why so many churches have lost the capacity to tell the truth. And this is why Christians defend war as holy or see billionaires as blessed, use law and order language like it's sacred, but then mock mercy. No wonder so many churches have prioritized the idea of personal salvation. It allows you to ignore systemic sin, and you start to see flags treated with more reverence than the cross. Stringfellow believed that when the church endorses or baptizes empire, that what it's doing is worshiping death, because the one thing that the powers always wield is death. Not just physical death, but spiritual death, the death of imagination, the death of empathy. It's kind of funny that we're seeing so much language come up today from American evangelicals talking about toxic empathy. Crazy. Stringfellow says that this is the death that comes when you no longer believe anything can change. And so you give yourself over to the way that things are. And he says that this is how the powers win, not by making you serve them consciously, but by making you believe they're inevitable. And he says that they do this strategically, and he actually outlines 8 strategies that the powers use to sustain their influence and subdue their conscience. For time purposes, I can only cover probably 3. One of these strategies is the denial of truth. He says that the powers lie blatantly and systemically, that they distort the facts and suppress evidence to amain the illusion of righteousness. And I think you can see this clearly in the way that American institutions dismiss or minimize the climate crisis, even when the scientific consensus is clear. Or in a way that somebody might claim an election was stolen with no credible proof, using the lie to justify further authoritarian responses. Or even how they erase the human toll of immigration policies by not acknowledging the deaths or the trauma caused by detentions, deportations, and border enforcement. Another strategy he outlines is what he calls doublespeak and overtalk in the Orwellian sense. And he's not just talking about lying here. Here he's talking about drowning the truth in euphemism and noise. So think about the way that we use terms like enhanced interrogation to mean torture, or collateral damage to mean dead civilians. Pundits and politicians will often flood the discourse with slogans like law and order, things that obscure who's actually making the laws and whose order is being preserved in the first place. And I think that when the language is corrupted, so is the conscience. Then there's surveillance and harassment. Stringfellow says that powers protect themselves by targeting dissent. And you can see this in the way that law enforcement agencies are starting to track protesters with facial recognition, or even as quietly as IRS audits and donor blacklists for faith leaders who challenge Christian nationalism. That's happening. Keep in mind, this was written in the 1970s, the early 70s. He talks about journalists facing threats for exposing state or corporate wrongdoing, and clergy who speak out being dismissed as, just political or divisive or even unpatriotic. The goal here isn't just to punish, it's to intimidate, to discourage anyone else from stepping out of line. And this is why Stringfellow didn't just call the church to critique the state. He was actually calling the church to exercise the state, to name the idols clearly, and to unmask the spiritual lies that are there beneath the political power. Stringfellow was begging the church to refuse to worship at the altars of relevance, respectability, and return on investment. And in a world where even the church can become possessed by the spirit of empire, Stringfellow believed that the only faithful church is the one that looks like Christ, poor, despised, and truth-telling, willing to die rather than to kill.
Okay, since no one's going to say it, I'm going to say it. Let's just call it what it is. This Trump administration isn't some showcase of brilliance or strategy or moral authority. It is a showcase of white mediocrity, broadcast for the entire world to see. If you think about it, they scream about being the greatest. They scream about being the smartest, the most patriotic. But when the spotlight hits them, what do we see? Corruption, incompetence, lies stacked on top of lies. A government so insecure it has to redraw maps, it has to silence voters, it has to attack its own citizens just to hold on to power. And the world is watching. Countries overseas are looking at America, shaking their heads saying, this is America? This is what we were told was the standard for democracy? Because for centuries, whiteness carried itself alongside synonymous with excellence, while dismissing black and brown excellence as inferior. But Trump's administration has blown that myth to pieces because globally, people see it now. Whiteness in power doesn't guarantee wisdom. It doesn't guarantee justice. It doesn't even guarantee competence. All it guarantees is access. Access. Handed down through a rigged system that protects mediocrity as long as it wears the right skin. So let's be clear. This ain't about every white person, but it is about the fact that Trump has exposed the truth that the old story of white superiority was never superiority at all. It was all smoke and mirrors. And now the smoke has cleared. So what comes next, right? If America wants respect on the world stage again, it won't come through Trump. It won't come through clinging to whiteness. It will come through honesty, justice, and multiracial democracy that values talent, not skin. Because the global stage just learned what we've always known. When you strip away the privilege, white mediocrity can't hold a candle to black excellence.
You know, one of the best things that has happened thus far from all of this is that we now get to see who we live amongst. We now get to see who we call our neighbors. We now get to see who we have been attending church with all these years. We now get to see the underbelly of this country. We get to see if a certain group of people do not come out and fight, what happens in this country. I said, God, you are so strategic. God is so strategic. Everything that God does, remember, it's for a reason and a purpose. Basically, black people has been staying home. And you see what happened when black people stay home and mind their business. The country literally is collapsing. Because, yes, you're going to say, oh, yeah, because we are not rioting. Because everything that we do, they blame it on us. And now they have nobody to blame. The people who are fighting don't know what to do. Even the people who are inflicting the pain don't know what to do. So they're getting crazier because they want to agitate people. They want to agitate black people to come out of their house because their plan is not going the way they want it to go. Black people staying home has thrown a monkey wrench in their plan and they don't know what to do. But now we all get to see who we live amongst. We see the new Republican Party. We are full of racist banter. It's just disgusting. And these are people who are going to churches on Sunday. So now we get to see who we are going to church with and worshiping with and calling and claiming we're calling God with. We see now the pedophiles. We see it's like a revealing. The masks have fallen off. It's a big revelation. America has been revealed to the world. And that's why I'm like, God, everything you do is for a purpose. Because if we did not listen, all of this would have still remained hidden. But God, but God, and I'm telling you, more to come. But at the end of the day, God has the final say. And you know, this morning when I was reading, I remember it was I think in Isaiah chapter 41 verse 10, when God says, fear not, be not dismayed. Basically, God is saying, I got you, my people. I'm telling you, if we did not listen, we would not realize how bad the situation in this country is. We would not realize. Now people are questioning, do I want to stay living in a place like this? White people want black people out of the country. And look, black people basically took themselves out of the country and the country's falling apart without us. So now you're getting a glimpse of if black people mind their business, this is what happens. It's just sad. And it is sad because this country is such a great country. But look at Babylon collapsing right in front of our eyes. Nebuchadnezzar falling, and the people that were supposed to be worshiping God as idolize Nebuchadnezzar. But God, Father, I thank you, because at the end of the day, you can only pretend for so long, but everything will come. The truth always come to light. Anyway, y'all, have a blessed day. And as the scriptures say, fear not, be not dismayed. Oh my God, man, God is good.
Y'all, they in trouble. Ooh, they in trouble. I see why Trump about to let out the truth now, cause he not trying to get the karma that they done stirred up. Welcome to the cookout. So we already know and have all the proof that when they arrived in these lands, they saw our people, right? But this gets deep, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with me. We know our people built these, right? This is our culture, Cahokia Mounds, right? Stay with me. Come on, we about to cook. Hold on. Welcome to the cookout. We about to get to cooking. So we know that means the Americans have more pyramids than the rest of the world, and we built them. We get that, right? We're starting to learn of our prominence in these lands. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to get to the main course. So while doing my reading, I came upon this. Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley, 1848, Squire and Davis. One earthwork structure in particular caught our eye. It has been referred to as the Hebrew earthworks of Milford, Ohio. This giant earthwork was shaped into what looks like an old Hebrew lamp, along with other recognizable Hebrew symbols. Hebrew symbols, you say? So knowing that we are the indigenous Americans, and now knowing that we are also the Hebrews, this makes it rather interesting, because if you read your holy scripts, God is described as avenging Israel on numerous occasions, particularly throughout the book of Exodus, Judges, and Kings, when stories detail God's intervention to deliver Yasharal from their enemies. So if we are Yasharal, and they've spent all this time doing us dirty, there's only one thing left. And you know what? I think I'm going to kick back, grab me some popcorn, and watch what happens to these lands and the people that did us wrong. And have no fear. Just know, for us, the melanatids, the indigenous Americans, the Murs, the Indians, the Hebrews, whatever you want to call us, oh, this is going to be a beautiful time, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh.
So hear the word of the Lord. America is on the edge of a great divide. And what we are about to see will not simply be political, it will also be spiritual. For over 3 years, I have been declaring that I saw civil war brewing, not only in the nation, but not excluding the nation, also in the church. And we are now seeing tremors of that becoming visible. But I hear the word of the Lord say that he's drawing a line between those that serve his kingdom and those who serve their own. He is exposing false pacts and false unities, both in the natural system and in the church. He is separating light from darkness and revealing darkness that has been presented as light. He is revealing truth from deception and the prophetic from the political. So don't be deceived. The battle lines are not red and blue. Those battle lines will cause conflict to intensify. But in the streets and in the pulpits, it shall be. But God never leaves himself without a witness. God is tearing down idols that have replaced him. Nationalism, celebrity, greed, offense, comfort. The Lord says, my prophets must not retreat into silence, nor hide behind loyalty. For I'm raising up a remnant whose allegiance is to heaven first. Voices that will not be bought, intimidated, or silenced. So prepare your heart, for judgment begins at the house of God, and it comes to his church. And as it comes to his church, it's going to come to the nation. But those who are anchored in his kingdom will stand as cities on hills when that shaking begins.
Thus saith the Lord, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people. From the very first days of this term, January 2025, you have trampled the cries of the oppressed and mocked the divine order of justice. You have turned compassion into weakness, greed into policy, and hatred into law. You have desecrated what is holy. You stand in the temple of American power, lifting your hands in the name of God while your heart is far from Him. You've used His name in vain, not just in speech, but in policy, in deception, in cruelty. Because you have plundered many nations, all the remnants of the people shall plunder you. For the stone shall cry out from the wall, and the beam from the timber shall answer it. You tear down pillars of equity, you exalt the wealthy and cast out the stranger. You sow discord, provoke war, and turn neighbor against neighbor for your own gain. But the Lord sees. You shall not pervert justice due to the poor in his lawsuit. Keep far from a false charge, for I will not acquit the wicked. From the border to the bench, from the budgets you've gutted to the black and brown voices you silenced. Your sin is not hidden. It is written across the heavens. Your golden dome will not protect you. Your walls will not hold. Your false prophets will not shield you from divine consequences. For every child caged, for every book banned, for every lie spoken in God's name, you have cursed yourself. They sow wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. And until a true servant of the Lord leads this land in humility, wisdom, and justice, America shall not see restoration. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will heal their land. You will not manipulate the kingdom. You will not merchandise the gospel, and you will not mock God. The season of false rule is short, but the justice of the Lord is eternal. Repent or fail, thus saith the Lord.
Listen to me. Racism is the poison in Arkansas soil. That's right, racism. Last week, hundreds of Arkansas farmers stood in a room and broke down in prayer in front of their elected officials. They weren't praying for rain, guys. They weren't praying for sunshine. They weren't even praying for a bumper crop. They were praying because their farms, their family land, their way of life is collapsing under tariffs and trade wars. And here's the truth. Those tariffs, that trade war, that whole playbook was born out of racism. Farmers were told the story that punishing foreigners would make America strong again. They were told to clap when leaders wagged their finger at China, Mexico, or whoever else they decided was the villain of the week. They were told it was patriotism, but really it was racism dressed up in red, white, and blue, and farmers bought it. They cheered it. They co-signed it. And now they are the ones paying the bill. Look at soybeans. Without tariffs, U.S. beans leaving New Orleans are cheaper than Brazil. But with tariffs, suddenly Brazil is winning. And who did that? Not God, not nature, not fate, your own leaders waving a racist flag and calling it strength. And the farmers who clapped for it are now on their knees begging for help. This isn't the first time. History is packed with proof that racism bankrupts the very people it fuels. Jim Crow didn't just brutalize black citizens. It strangled the Southern economy for generations. Segregation didn't just rob black kids of opportunity. It robbed the entire South of progress, creativity, and prosperity. The Chinese Exclusion Act of the 1880s, it cut off immigrant labor that helped build America, leaving industries starved. Japanese internment during World War II, well, that destroyed businesses, farms, and families, and the whole economy bore the cost. Every single time America lets racism drive policy, the poison spreads. It never just hits the target. It always circles back. And now here we are again. Farmers in Arkansas prayed out loud last week because they're broke. And they know it. And some of them voted for this mess. Some of them cheered when the tariffs went into place because they thought it would put others in their place. But you can't hate and expect to harvest prosperity. You cannot poison your neighbor's well without eventually drinking from it yourself. So let's call this what it is. Racism is the poison in your soil. It's why your crops can't compete. It's why your barns are empty. It's why you bowed your head in front of men in suits who don't care about you at all beyond your vote. Racism doesn't just starve the people you think are your enemies, it starves you. Arkansas, this is your wake-up call. You can pray all you want, but you have to face the truth. Nothing changes unless you do. Racism isn't strength, it's weakness. It's not power, it's poison. It's killing your farms, your family, and your future. Please wake up.
There are so many distractions, people. We need to pay attention to what really matters. The US dollar is down 11% since the start of the year, and that is not good for American business. That is not good for the American consumer. Now, for a place like Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, where we're on the AED, the dirham, we're pegged to the dollar. So what you bought before, you can buy now. But everything else is at least 11% higher. That's not good. And those countries now get an 11% discount buying against the dollar, which is going to diminish us even more over time. What is the goal? Why would any administration want to diminish the dollar? Is there an ulterior motive? There's a reason I'm making a Linico Cafe right now. I'm working and I'm tired. So what is that ulterior motive? I can't tell you what it is. I can speculate. I can speculate that they're trying to crash the dollar as much as possible and replace it with a federalized cryptocurrency, which will be controlled, governed, and distributed by none other than the most corrupt people in the world. That doesn't sound very good. That doesn't sound very beneficial. That sounds like a further extension of the middle going closer to the lower and the upper skyrocketing up. And we already know that the upper percentage of the earners in the United States don't actually earn their money from doing anything like a job. They earn it from investments. They earn it from dividends. They earn it from investments. And so if you're investing in a crypto and you're going to then federalize a crypto, you got to pick one, two. What are you going to pick? Maybe you're going to allow several. Maybe there's not going to be a singular federalized one. Maybe it'll be a federalized crypto system. And some cryptocurrencies will be accepted and some will be banned. Well, which ones are going to be banned? The ones that weren't invested on by this guy? Which ones are going to go through? The ones that were invested? Why are they tanking the dollar? It hasn't even been 11 months, so at least a percentage, 1.1% per month, every month, decrease. That's terrible. So what's the solution? I can't tell you what the solution is. Maybe stop worrying. I know the Epstein stuff matters. I know there's a lot of things that matter. And that's why they're using these distractions. These distractions are things that should be addressed. But it's like at the company, right? Like, I was talking to somebody yesterday at our company, and he's like, you guys should think about doing, you should do this, and maybe you should think about doing this. And I was like, we thought of that. Actually, we've already discussed that. He's like, why don't you guys get it done? I said, look, you're right, and everything you're thinking is correct. But there's an order in which things need to be done. There's an order in which you need to execute any strategy if you hope to get to your objective. And if the objective is to slowly or methodically bring down corruption, well, first you need to address the powers that are creating corruption. And if you allow them to go unchecked, that's a problem. If we're over here talking about the Epstein files and that being our primary focus, when actually maybe that's third, fourth, or fifth down the line of what we first need to address, which is urgent and could collapse us sooner than we think. And we all know that movie Point whatever, Dante's Point from the 90s. Maybe not all of us, but older people, unks, we know it. What if you put a frog in warm water? If you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump right out. If you put a frog in warm water and slowly boil it, it'll stay in there until it boils to death. And humans are very much the same way. The writing's on the wall. They're taking our dollar. They're taking the economy. They're doing things. They're behaving like a gosh darn you know what, all right? And it's out of control, and we need to unify behind the things that we agree upon. We need to unify behind some centralized ideas, right? Things that matter to all of us. It's not going to be great if we're all bankrupt. It doesn't matter who's in power if none of us have anything to split, if there's no pie to eat, and we're all dependent on corrupt freaking... Talk to someone who disagrees with you overall and only focus on what you agree upon, right? So it's like, you're a far right Republican, you're a far left Democrat. What do you guys agree on? Can we put everything else aside, just talk about that? Can we start with one thing? Do we think it's bad that the dollar is crashing? 11% is big. That means if you got $1, you just lost 11 cents. That's 89 cents less, or left. It's not good. Come on. Talk to someone you disagree with about what you agree upon, please. Or get your money and come to Dubai, Habibi. Kitty cat time. It's kitty cat time.
Government is lying to us. This economy is about to collapse. The best thing you could do is lock in, get comfortable, and enjoy the ride. Every industry is about to burst. Take a look at the car industry. $1.5 billion worth of cars sitting on lots that nobody buying. The interest rate is all fucked up. You're paying $40,000, $50,000 for an average fucking vehicle. People are stuck in mortgages that they don't want to fucking be in no more. The houses are cheaply built. Every time you turn around, something fucking breaking. Hey, yo, and let's not forget these fucking commercial buildings and shit that people aren't using no more. They don't resort to Zoom and Vonage and shit like that. They giving up on a payment on that shit. The banks can't sell them shits to nobody, so the banking industry is all fucked up. Hey, yo, this country is fucked up right now, man. And anybody thinking that the government is coming to save them, they can't even save their fucking self, bro. The government is shut the fuck down right now. Millions of people are about to go without food during Thanksgiving month. Yo, this shit is real out this motherfucker, man. And people walking around not knowing what the fuck is going on or believing everything gonna be alright. This is a fucking cardboard economy. Buy now, pay later. But where you gonna get the money to pay later? The job's not fucking hiring. Yo, I'm telling you right now, I don't know what the fuck is around the corner, but I'm scared. I'm scared about what the fuck is around this corner, man. I don't think any of us walking on earth right now have ever witnessed what the fuck is going on in our country. And this shit is fact.
The United States is about to break and nobody is willing to talk about it. If we as a country don't make a change here, we are cooked. The media doesn't give it the attention it deserves. Politicians won't say it out loud, but our country, it's drowning in over $36 trillion in debt. And here's the terrifying part. We're now spending more than $1 trillion a year just to pay the interest, not the debt itself, just the interest. It takes my breath away whenever I talk about it. Imagine you maxed out your credit card that you have, then took out more just to cover your monthly payments. That's what we're doing as a government and as a country. And when the bill comes due, it's you who's going to pay the price. Higher taxes, slash services, or worse, God forbid, a financial collapse that would make 2008 look like a hiccup. If we don't change course here, folks, if we don't stop printing money, overspending, and kicking this can down the road, your future, our future, won't be stable jobs and affordable homes. It'll be layoffs, rent that you can't afford, and retirement accounts that don't mean anything. Heck, some of you are saying right now, I'm already feeling the effects. They'll try to distract you with these headlines and drama, but this is the real threat we are facing, and nobody's coming to save us. I'm curious, what do you think about this in the comment section below? For more unapologetic and trustworthy news, hit that follow button. I appreciate you.
This isn't me trying to fearmonger. This is just me trying to prepare you. The U.S. economy right now is like a Jenga tower with 18 fucking pieces missing. We are one piece pulled out away from everything just toppling down. AI was responsible for 40% of U.S. GDP growth this past year and 80% of U.S. stock growth. and the manufacturing industry has contracted for 7 consecutive months, while every other economic indicator is saying this is as bad as things have been since 2009. Now, when you have a sentence that says the economy is as bad as it's been since 2009, you are fucked. So again, this is not me fear-mongering. This is just me preparing you. Our economy is in a very bad place. If you have a job, hold on to it with everything you have.
So it's make Argentina great again. It's make Israel better. It's anything but America first. And now he's going to take away food stamps the whole month of November. And let me tell you what, 1 out of every 5 people that are on food stamps are veterans. They have fought for this country, and President Trump is punishing poor people for the No Kings rally. That's what he's doing. See, President Trump doesn't want to be president anymore. He wants to be the king. He's already established everything that he has to do. And look, you've seen what them young Republicans were writing, and you've seen that guy come out and say, well, this is just what all Republicans do and say behind the scenes. It's no big deal. This is how we all feel. They're all racist, male chauvinist, pedophiles, and now they want us to accept that. Look, President Trump's ratings are dropping like the rent on a burning building. He doesn't care that you don't agree with what he's doing. He's just going to start punishing the poorest of us all. And that's making America great.
We're not heading towards a collapse. This is the empire actively collapsing. Like, we're in it. This is the part in the history books that like has a name to the event, but like we're in it, so it's not being named. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was the Great War before they knew that there was going to be a World War II. And then, mind you, during World War I, they didn't know that it was going to be called World War I. You know what I mean? But we're definitely in the collapse. It's not the collapse is coming. No, like everything is failing currently, actively right now. The empire is collapsing right now. We are in the collapse of the American empire experiment. The experiment, and I've said this before, clearly has failed. Patriarchy has failed. The system of capitalism was not correct. Didn't really do much. Didn't really help. That including racism, on top of a whole bunch of other things, but racism being one of the things that literally built the country brick by brick, literally. Yeah, we're in the collapse. The collapse is now. Yeah, that's why everything looks so chaotic and crazy, and it's like, what's actually going on? It's because we're not actually on our way towards a collapse. This is just actually the collapse currently happening, and that's why we can't really make sense of anything, and it feels like so much is going on. We're not realizing like this is the part in the history books that already has a name, but they haven't named it yet because we're currently going through it. You know what I mean? But like this is the collapse of the American empire. I fully believe that. Absolutely.
So most of the world has decided to stop shipping. They stopped their shipments to the United States, their imports. As of today, there are 33 countries that have announced that they have suspended their shipments to the United States due to the ending of the de minimis, which is a tax exemption, a duties exemption that allowed packages and shipments coming into the United States under the value of $800 to be duty free. That ended today. And before it could officially end, countries around the world had already started announcing that they're not shipping over here anymore. If you think that I'm lying, just head over to USA Today to look at the list of all of the countries that have announced that they are no longer shipping to the United States. All right. And just to give you a little idea, I'm going to read off some of the countries that are on this list. Australia, Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Cyprus, Denmark, Estonia, France, Germany, Greece, India, Italy, Japan, and the list goes on. See, the UN's Universal Postal Union, right, which deals with the postal servicing of 192 countries, came out and stated that the changes will entail considerably operational changes for postal operators all around the world. And when the agency, right, was questioned by USA Today, they stated that they couldn't announce the names of these countries that decided that they will be suspending their imports to the United States. But then these countries decided to start announcing it themselves. They just started coming out and telling you guys, yeah, we're not shipping to the United States anymore. This should be bigger news, but for some reason it's not really being broadcasted. And I wonder why, considering that we are all going to feel it. For all of you guys who kept saying that we weren't going to feel any of the effects of what Donald Trump was doing until after the 4 years, we're feeling it now. We're feeling it now. Let me just let you know what what we're all about to start experiencing, okay? We're going to be dealing with the increased cost of consumers. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying this from the beginning, but now you're really going to start feeling it. When you walk into those stores and you see that the prices actually jumped considerably, then you're going to start to realize the severity of what everybody was trying to explain to you guys. In addition to that, we're also going to be dealing with the impact on small businesses, okay? Essentially causing a lot of them to shut down. Why? Because the higher costs in operations, or it's going to take to operate their small business, as well as the loss in international consumers, okay? You're also going to have to deal with regulation changes. Now that all of these countries have decided to take a pause in shipping over to the United States, who's to say that they're not going to change how they deal with shipment and how they deal with tariffs? And overall, the trade relations is about to change in a way that a lot of us can't even handle. I'm going to be so honest with you. So yeah, all that talk about we're going to feel it in the 4 years, we're not going to really feel it right now. No. We're feeling it now. We're feeling it now.
They did it. They actually did it. This is crazy. The Supreme Court just ruled that not only can these ICE raids continue, but they can continue, and they can continue being based on race and the language you speak, or if you have an accent, even if you're speaking English. I don't even know if they're checking to see if people are citizens or not. No due process, just getting snatched up and detained. In my opinion, this is the point of no return, because the only branch of government that was doing a medial job in holding checks and balances is now capitulating. I mean, it's not like we didn't see this coming. I mean, it's his handpicked Supreme Court. But this, combined with the fact that ICE just got infused with the most federal dollars of any government agency. And if you think ICE with that budget and with that power is going to stop at immigrants, you need to read more books. There hasn't been a time in history where a fascist regime stopped at the first outgroup. No, it's immigrants right now, but the next outgroup will come, and that's who ICE will go after that. This is just the Gestapo arm of this fascist regime. I really don't want to be the sky is falling guy, but the sky is kind of fucking falling. I'm not gonna hold you. There's no history book ever where any country goes this far into fascism and then just doesn't go any further. They're like, I almost got you. No, we're here. I encourage really everybody to get involved in your local city politics, to build mutual aid networks in your city, especially if you're in one of the cities that are planned to get one of these National Guard targets, DC, Baltimore, I believe Chicago was one of them. Whatever other city that he was talking about, he was going to send troops into. Now it's community time. That's what time it is right now. Okay, I would get real friendly. I would try to start building relationships. Try to maybe talk to your neighbors. Because I mean, with this kind of pressure in everyday life, your quality of life is not going to get better. Your quality of life is not going to get better. I promise you. Now is the point in the history books where you resist. Okay, now we start fighting back. Now we start pushing back. And one way to do that is civic engagement. That is a huge way to do that. Matter of fact, that's how we got here in the first place, is us not doing it. So I hate to say it, it's time to start doing those boring things like reading books and learning about civics and attending city council meetings. This is the point in history when fighting back is imperative. Inaction is not an option, because you are next.
Okay, breaking news. Just a few hours ago, it was announced that US debt has reached $38 trillion for the first time ever. All right. Just to put that into context, it is up 1 trillion since August. All right. It's up another trillion since August, first of all. Secondly, it is 131% of US GDP. So it's larger than the entire economy. It has been for quite a while, but now it's 131% of US GDP. If you were to break it down for every single man, woman, and child in America, that is worth $111,000. Every single man, woman, and child. $111,000. Unbelievable.
America is collapsing. before our very eyes. Restaurants are closing their doors for good in my city at a record pace. They're blaming it on a slow season, but I think it's something else. You can't tell me the amount of abandoned strip malls that I drive by on a daily basis is normal. I know you've seen it too. All these places just get replaced with the capybara cafe de jour or a flower store to placate the masses, if you know what I mean. There used to be 24-hour diners, family-owned restaurants, even bookstores, I don't know, third spaces. Now, nothing. Luxury apartments that sit vacant forever. Grocery stores that have been closed for 10 years. So much wasted space in empty parking lots until some TikTok trend comes, opens for 6 months, and then that closes too. I know I'm not alone in this, but yet every single time I bring it up, I get all the bots in my comments telling me the economy's never been better. But I ask for who? Like 100 people at the top? So the billionaires are doing great. I don't care. People like you and me, we're struggling out here. All my friends live in vans. And if we are lucky enough to have apartments or houses, we're living behind locked doors and closed blinds because there's no community here anymore. Restaurants are just the beginning. They're the canary in the coal mine. Once they're gone, so are all of our meeting places, our birthday parties, our community, and third spaces. They're not just a place to buy food. They're a pulse of the neighborhood. And also, as a live singer, something hugely important to my job. I used to sing 5 nights a week. Now I'm lucky if I can find a Sunday night gig. So I'm just here to say, if this is what a booming economy sounds like, it must be the sound of doors slamming shut. And I don't know about you, but I'm making my exit plan. We're moving to Portugal soon, where they still have cafes and restaurants that people actually go to. If you find that interesting, stick around. Because I can tell you this is not normal. And don't let internet comments gaslight you into thinking it is.
The economy is going to collapse and no one is talking about it. I worked on Wall Street, and much of the investment in the US is because of the exploitation that we allow, like by regressing our tax rates or pushing costs on a society and the environment, and by preventing labor from participating in any sort of upside that their work created. This is part of what has buoyed stock prices, which we just can't believe keep rising. But here's the thing. Soon there's going to be nothing left to exploit. The concentration of resources and the movement of resources away from assets related to the public good, like infrastructure or housing or education, are now leading to a mass deterioration of economic conditions. Eventually, the collapse in productive conditions will overpower the attractive influence of the exploitation that we allow. And at that point, capital will leave the country, causing a further deterioration in conditions, causing more capital to leave the country. You see where this is going. So asset values are going to collapse, but more importantly, so will our living conditions, which means more misery and pain and suffering and impoverishment, which, by the way, makes all of our lives worse. That is, unless we do something about it. I know the weight of what I'm saying, and I don't take it lightly. It makes me sick to my stomach, but over time, I've become more confident in this analysis, not less. If you want to do something about it, like, follow, interact, do whatever you can. Get in the mix. I'm not going to accept this, and neither should you.
America is going to be the poorest country in the world starting now. You're going to see the biggest crashes happening right now. So that's good for me because the price of gold and silver go up.
That's interesting because most people in India until the last decade have been migrating to the US, thinking that that is where is the land of opportunity to pursue the great American dream. But over the last 2 years, we've seen an increasing number of people coming back in droves back to India because that's where they're seeing the opportunity. So that is a very interesting shift that I never thought would happen so quickly in my lifetime.
Do I need to flee the country? But then I'm like, but if I flee the country, where am I going to go? Because fascism is on the rise in Europe too. And then I'm like, my ancestors survived here and they made it work. But then I'm like, but the ancestors wanted better for me and they didn't have a choice but to stay, but I might have resources to leave. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe they will want me to leave. And then I'm like, do I have the money to leave? And I'm like, I certainly don't have the energy to fight. Oh my God, I can't fight nothing. I'm not built for that. But then I'm like, maybe I can just go to Canada because it's right there. And then I'm like, is that too close? That might be too close. And you see the far right rising in France and Germany and Italy. And then you start to really think to yourself, is there really a way to escape the tendrils of American imperialism? And maybe it's actually safer to be here than it is to leave. because I don't want to be on the receiving end of the nukes, right? But I also don't want to be in the country that's shooting them. And then, of course, you start thinking, but if I do leave, do they like black people? You know what I mean? So I'm really confused.
Welcome back. You see those videos, right? They clearly said, what I am saying here. Now, America can hide its history text, right? It can hide its history in textbooks, but it can't hide it from God. The source of the broken still speaks. The blood of the innocent still testifies. You can silence the people, but you can't silence their truth. This is not revenge. This is remembrance. Because when God remembers, the world shakes. Because when God remembers, I said what? The world shakes. So yes, God has remembered what America did. And until this nation repents, it will never know peace. The truth doesn't fade with time. It only grows louder. And now the world, the whole world can hear it. Look at what's happening in America. Imagine what is happening in America right now. Just chaos. Chaos. It shifted from being the greatest country in the world to becoming something else. Look at the weather conditions. Look at killings. Look at the brutality everywhere. Look at the confusion in the politics. It's karma. You won't tell me anything. This is karma. Loudest one. This is karma at its peak. So it's happening and we're seeing it. We're watching. I know they'll be like, oh, we don't know what happened. It's this, is that. It's nothing. It's karma that's speaking. Your ancestors are here speaking. And let me tell you, if they don't pay reparations and ask for mercy properly, it's going to get worse, to be honest. But let me tell you, I'm going to tell you how Black Americans are still going to be exempted when it gets worse, right? I will stop here right now. Do not forget to subscribe, like, share this videos to your friends and family members. Congratulations, FBAs. God has not ignored you. Look at it happening before you. Don't worry. Don't worry. Your time is coming. I'll stop here. Do not forget, it's me, Global Gist BJ, where you hear things you've not heard anywhere. Where we spill things the way it is, right? This is where you see it in its originality. We don't copy. This is where you get it. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye.